How's it going, everyone? My name is Bryce, and I am doing an NPC run through Dark Souls. The rules of this run are simple. You have to beat the game as an NPC cosplay. You can pick any NPC you want, but you are only allowed to use that NPC's armor and weapons, and if they're known to have a very certain ring, you have to leave that ring on. Beyond that, though, you can use any other rings you want, you can use any items you want, and you're free to upgrade or enchant your gear, but you're not allowed to turn that gear into any sort of boss weapon. You must stick with the weapon and armor of the NPC. I went with the Crestfallen Warrior for the first run, and this is because he has the longsword and the heater shield, and that is something that the Warrior starting package comes with. So it allowed me to start the game and simply unequip the armor and head through the Undead Asylum with the shield and longsword. So, heading through the asylum, I felt like everything was dangerous. Everything was a problem. I died against the asylum demon the first time, which never happens. I think it was because I'm used to wearing armor. And the world just felt big. It felt scary. I'm not the guy who does challenge runs. I'm the easy mode guide. I like to use that Zweihander. I like to beat things down and throw lightning at it. But now I was faced with a challenge run. So, I got used to the moveset. I got used to rolling and dodging. I eventually made my way through the Undead Burg, and I bought my armor. I was now officially the Crestfallen Warrior. I went over to kill the Taurus demon. I grabbed the gold pine resin along the way, and it was really useful for killing the Taurus demon, though I did miss the first plunging attack, but he died easy enough. I headed back down to Firelink Shrine. I went below deck for the Firekeeper soul, and then I went up to kill the Crestfallen Warrior. That was one of the rules of this challenge, was I decided I had to kill the NPC that I was cosplaying as. I will be breaking this rule for Solaire, however, because I can't resist the urge to be a double Solaire Sunbros. The Crestfallen Warrior was quite a difficult fight. You have to be pretty good to parry him, and he can one-shot you for the most part with his counterattack. So I went over to a ledge and let him fall off all on his own. All that there was to do then was to head up to the Undead Parish, save Lautrec, summon Lautrec and Solaire, and kill the gargoyle, and I rang my first bell. Then it was time to go kill Lautrec, and I headed over back to the Undead Asylum to grab the rusted iron ring. I killed Oscar, and then I realized I forgot the key, so I headed back, I grabbed the key, and then I headed back to the Undead Asylum, and I grabbed the rusted iron ring. I went all the way down to Blighttown to kill Quelaag, but first, I had to kill Mildred, and that fight was easy enough, and then I began to fight Quelaag, and I realized I had to learn her movesets. Everything was different with a much smaller and shorter sword, and a lot less damage. So I tried to let Mildred take the most of the action, but she ended up just walking into lava quite a lot, and I just couldn't beat Quelaag. She would one-hit me, my armor was too weak, my weapon was too weak, and I felt kind of defeated. Could I actually do this run? Did I have what it takes? Am I kidding myself? Who am I to try and do a challenge run? I should just go back to lightning and the Zweihander and just keep it casual, keep it easy. But then I remembered that when you hit a problem in Dark Souls, you simply back up, level up, and look at it from a different angle. So I got out of there and I grinded up my gear with Andre. Then I headed over to grab the Havel ring. And I was a little intimidated by Havel, but you know what? Although he could one-shot us with his big old dragon tooth, he was slow and easy to just walk around in circles and just kind of kill him. It was honestly kind of sad. And that felt amazing. It felt amazing to trivialize Havel, someone who usually gives me so much trouble. I felt like this was the moment that I got good. Now with the Havel ring, I needed to go down and get the large ember for Andre so I could level up my sword even more. So I went down to the Capra, I kept my head on my shoulders, and I killed him pretty easily. I leveled up my sword after giving the large ember to Andre, and then I went back down, and I killed Quelaag this time, with better armor, better gear, a little bit of help from Mildred, and just keeping calm, keeping cool, keeping collected. I rang that second bell. And then it was time for a little grocery shopping. I bought the Crest of Artorias for later. I headed down to the catacombs because I wanted to get a fire sword before heading back up to go through Sen's fortress and fight Ornstein and Smo. They're weak to fire, so I figured I better have a fire sword first. You know what? In those catacombs, I got my butt kicked. Those skeletons were hard. Those necromancers hit even harder. So I needed a divine sword. If you give a mouse a cookie, right? So I went over to buy some fire bombs from the Undead merchant. I did a few dragon runs to grab the souls easily enough for that. I headed over to the Moonlight Butterfly, and I killed it with a few fire bombs and Beatrice. At this point, I just felt like things seemed dangerous, the world felt big, but it's getting easier than I thought. Havel wasn't a problem, the Capra Demon wasn't a problem, the Moonlight Butterfly wasn't a problem, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. I upgraded my gear with Andre and I went back down to the catacombs, and it was frustrating, it was a maze, but it wasn't that hard. I created a fire sword with Vamos, I went over and killed Pinwheel, and then it was time to run through Sen's fortress. I took a break, I got my wits about me, and I began to make my way through Sen's funhouse. And you know what? Again, it was easy. I stopped to kick Sigmeyer off a ledge halfway through just because, and then I made it to the top on my first try. Once at the top, I met the Crestfallen merchant, and I grinded quite a few souls to buy all of his gear. I unlocked the shortcut so I could go back down and do some dragon runs. I ended up buying his lightning ring, all of his rings, extra large titanite shards for upgrading my gear even further. At this point, I went over and killed the giant, and that was nothing. It didn't even break a sweat. After the giant, I summoned Black Iron Tarkus, and we killed the golem. Again, first try, no problem. I took the elevator up, I killed a gargoyle, I think I forgot to record that one. Did a rafter run, which was no problem, made it I think on my second try. Killed the gargoyle on the other side, and at this point, I was terrified of Ornstein and Smo. They were looming overhead, but I was feeling hopeful. So, I needed one last thing before fighting them, because fighting them just seemed too difficult, too big. It wasn't doable. So I wanted to grab the large fire ember and get my fire sword up as high as possible before fighting Ornstein and Smo. I headed down and defeated Ceaseless Discharge. I did a suicide run to grab the large fire ember, and then I got my fire longsword up to +8. At this point, I summoned Solaire, and I channeled my inner lemon and used a bunch of fire bombs with Solaire to win on our first try. I was feeling unstoppable. The world was my oyster. There was nothing that could stop me, except for the Four Kings. They were this big idea in my head that I would not be able to pass the DPS check, that it's going to be 5 kings, it's going to be such a difficult fight for me. But I did some shopping. I went around upgrading my gear, I got Oscar's sword, I picked up some fire bombs, some rings, more gear for the future, did some enchanting, put things off just a little bit. I grinded some humanity down amongst the rats to save Solaire, and then it was time to move on. It was time to get back going on the game. I went over to the Fire Sage and we killed him. We killed him easy. He wasn't a problem. Now I just need to kill the Centipede Demon, but Solaire, he was gone. I couldn't find him anywhere. I reloaded the game a few times, I walked around, I tried going back up to the Sunlight Altar, but I could not find Solaire anywhere. I was frustrated. I fought the Centipede Demon a few times, and the whole time I was gritting my teeth. I just wish I had Solaire. I wish I had Solaire. But I learned how to dance. I learned how to move around that Centipede Demon, and you know what? He really wasn't that hard. Maybe Solaire had helped me by backing off and letting me fly solo. After this, I just cheesed the bed of chaos with some firebombs. I headed down to New Londo. I said hi to Ingward for the key. I drained the lake. I grabbed the very large ember. I grabbed the Cursebite ring. And then I went and fought Sith. And I killed the sad puppy. It was easy. I couldn't help but feel at this point, is this it? Is this my first challenge run? Honestly, that last fight wasn't even fun. Speaking of not having fun, it was time to go to Duke's archives. I ran past all the ridiculously overpowered undead, ran my way through the archive, grabbed the first bonfire, and then I just ran in to kill Sith. And the fight was easy. It was nothing. It wasn't even a challenge. But the Tomb of Giants, that would prove a problem, right? So I went down there, and you know what? We went through the darkness, we dealt with the dogs, we killed the Black Knight, and we got to the bonfire. We got to the second bonfire. We killed Leroy for his armor later. And then I just went into the needle fight. I didn't even really prepare for it. I didn't have everything that I was gonna prepare and grab for it, more flat black fire bombs and all that. And Nito at one point glitched up through the wall. I couldn't hit him, so I had to reload the fight, and I didn't even bother to go back and get full Estus. It was just too easy. Is this a joke? I'm going hollow. Is this game even worth playing at this point? It feels like a list of chores. I feel like I've truly become the Crestfallen Warrior. Is this adventure too dull? I wandered around the map for, about 2 days. My kids were painting their Warhammer figures, and I was in the room playing with them. I couldn't really record the next challenge, so I used that time to do things that weren't worth recording, grinding and setting up for the next few runs, but I was going hollow. The game was getting repetitive. The hard challenge from the beginning became a grocery list. And where was Solaire? I looked for him everywhere, but he was nowhere to be found, and I felt I was alone without him. I was feeling crestfallen. But I headed into New Londo. I went down to the Four Kings, and I simply walked through that fight. The Four Kings became 5 as my DPS wasn't high enough, just as I had feared. I wasn't fast enough, but the fight was no problem. Is this it? Is this all Dark Souls can throw at me? With nothing left to do, I headed down to the Lord Vessel. I placed the souls and ran through the Black Knights, and sidestepping the Black Knights was easy. Simply hung to the right, kind of walked behind them as they hit, and then just ran through. I looked for Solaire, and sure enough, he wasn't there. Instead of going back and trying to resummon him and do everything, I decided it was time to be done. It was time to wrap up this game. So I went in to fight Lord Gwyn, and it took a few tries as usual, but eventually Gwyn went down. I answered the question, can you beat the game as the Crestfallen Warrior? Yes, easily. But I remembered, another game's on the horizon, a new hero to play in New Game Plus as Oscar of Astora, which means I have the Elite Knight armor, the Crest Shield, and the Straight Sword of Astora. Heading through the Asylum, it was pretty easy. I killed the Asylum Demon with no problem at all. And then I headed to Firelink Shrine, and the first thing I did was I headed down to the New Londo Depths and grabbed the Firekeeper Soul. Running through this world, I felt like a superhero. I felt like I was Captain America and I was some sort of super soldier. I made my way up to the Taurus Demon, and he was a breeze. I ran past the dragon, I joined the Sumbro Club, and I secured my miracles for the next run. Feeling a surge of power run through my veins, I only summoned Solaire for the gargoyles, and I got overconfident and died by being greedy with my Estus recovery. I went back and won easily with Solaire and Lautrec, and although I was thankful for Lautrec's help against the gargoyles, I didn't like the way he was creeping on the young girl down at Firelink Shrine, so I put him out of its misery. Then I headed back to the Undead Asylum to kill my doppelganger. There can only be one. After that, I headed down to Blighttown, and Mildred died pretty easily. And then we went and fought Quelaag together, and I gotta tell you, Quelaag hit like a Mack truck on this run. But unlike the last run, where Mildred was pretty useless, she decided to be the MVP of this run. I had a hard time keeping up with her damage. With Quelaag out of the way, I rang the second bell. I decided to then head over to Ceaseless Discharge, and I died because I'm a slow boy. But I won the race the second time as a skinny raisin boy, and then I told Ceaseless that I killed Mufasa and I knocked him off the edge. After this, I ran through Sen's fortress, and those snakes were beefy boys on this run. I said hi to Sigmeyer, and then I fell to my death once. But I came back and I saved Big Hat because I'm a hero, and I ran through the rest of it pretty easily. I went up to the top and I made fun of the giant until he died of shame. I said hi to the crestfallen merchant. Then I summoned Black Iron Tarkus, and then we acted like Sid's toys as we killed the Iron Golem. I took the elevator up to Anor Londo, and at this point I learned patience as I killed the third gargoyle, murdered the KKK hiding in the rafters. I killed the last gargoyle, and I put on some good music and jammed my way through a few archer runs until we made it. At this point in the run, I was having the time of my life. I was blasting through the enemies, I was jamming through the challenges, I was in a good mood. I kept trying to put the game down and take a break, but I just kept coming back for a little bit more. Before fighting Ornstein and Smo, I had to go save Sigmeyer, and I killed 3 Silver Knights. Then, I went over to Ornstein and Smo, and honestly, it was a fun fight. The first time I relied too much on Solaire, and the poor guy got teamed up on, and then I got teamed up on. The second try, I learned that Solaire can easily 1v1 Ornstein, but he's no match for Smo. Solaire died. Then I got caught by Mr. Thunderthighs. But the third time, I was able to separate the two. Solaire won his 1v1 match, but then he died trying to help me with mine, but I was able to drop the big man after that. And now it was time to teleport around the map, saving the world. First, I saved Griggs of Vinheim. You're welcome, citizen. But the Capra Demon caught me monologuing. Maybe twice. But eventually I took him seriously, and I put him down no problem at all. Then, another citizen was saved as we rescued Laurentis. I gave Sigmeyer permission to get stuck again. I prayed the sinner's prayer with Solaire. Heading on down to the catacombs, I died to pinwheel spam twice. But then I summoned my pop-up blocker energy and I focused on the ads and I was able to defeat the real pinwheel. Then I went looking for love in all the wrong places. Ray of Thorland was nowhere to be found, but eventually we caught up. We were just being ships in the night. I killed her boyfriends to prove that I was the best boy, and then I went up top to kill one last incel. Went down to the demon ruins and attempted base jumping. I don't recommend. Then things changed. I fought the Fire Sage, and while I had mastered his moveset, it was a long and tedious fight. I felt like it took forever. Then Solaire and I tag-teamed the Centipede Demon, and this guy just kind of felt like a chore as well. I'd already learned all of his movesets and all the skills to beat him on the last run, and this time it was just took forever. The Longsword of Astora was just not a good weapon. But with those road bumps out of the way, I killed a witch, and then I killed My Chemical Romance, and I got lost in Izalith for a lot longer than I'd like to admit. Finally, Solaire became the sun. Feels bad. Then I used firebombs to save Sigmeyer. Then I wrapped up this horrible place by cheesing the Bed of Chaos with some firebombs once more. This time I got the Bed of Chaos on my first try, which felt amazing. After that, I headed up to Duke's Archives. I killed one piggy, then another little piggy went to market. And then I had my obligatory death to Sith. I condemned Big Hat Logan to death as I forgot he was alive, but then I remembered him and I went back down and I chatted with him in his cell. I easily ran through Duke's Archives, but I found I lacked the strength to actually kill any channelers before they could teleport away. I saved Siglin after practicing a lot of patience against a golden golem, and then I was overconfident against Sith, and I died once again. Finally, I learned the new definition of patience as I nuzzled into Sith, and it took forever, but I finally whittled him down and killed him. Then I went down to the Tomb of Giants. I watched a dog jump to his death. Then I watched a Black Knight jump to his death. And then I fought Nito, and it just took forever. All of these bosses are taking forever. Ornstein and Smo was the last fun fight I really had in this run. I went down to New Londo ruins, I grabbed the key, I drained the lake, I gazed at death. I grabbed a very large ember. I headed over to Sith and I killed the sad puppy. It didn't take as long and was an easy fight. I simply had to hide inside his legs and whack away until I started crying. But I wiped my tears and put on my new bling. Then I fought the 10 Kings. It took forever. Finally, after they were defeated, I remembered Big Hat Logan. I totally forgot about him. So I ran back and saw he was gone, and I searched all over Duke's Archives until I found him in the library. One last person to save. I killed the Hydra, I killed the Golden Golem, and saved Dusk. There was nothing left to do but head down to Gwyn. He gave us the typical trouble, but we put him down in the end. And that's the game. How was it? Well, for the first half of this game, I felt overpowered. I felt like a super soldier, Captain America superhero. I was running around the map. I was teleporting around. I was saving people. It was amazing. But the second half of the game was lame. This Longsword of Astora is not a fun weapon. And while I have my same reservations for the Sunlight Straight Sword of Solaire, at least on the next run I'm gonna have those Lightning Bolt miracles. So we answered the question, can you beat New Game Plus as Oscar of Astora? Yes? Yes, you can, but it's gonna take a lot of patience. Just like Oscar in the game had to wait around wondering if he was the chosen one, if the prophecy would ever come true, I had to wait around whacking these bosses for what felt like hours. While the build was quite tanky enough, I would definitely not recommend doing this a second time through. But a new game awaits, a new world, a new time with... On this Solaire run specifically, I'm going to engage in jolly cooperation wherever it's possible. Also, on this run, I allowed myself to use Gwyn's Sunlight Spear without even really thinking. For some reason, it just made sense to me that Solaire would have it, and I didn't realize until halfway through the run that, you know what, that's probably not part of his equipment. So, that did help me out a little bit, but it is New Game 3, so, you know, there it is. I will say, however, that this build felt so powerful and so fun. On my last playthrough, I was limited to Oscar of Astora with the straight sword of Astora, which just lacked any teeth, but I did not have that problem with Solaire. I found that running through this game, I felt like I was piloting a Jaeger suit or something. It was overwhelming how much power I felt running through my veins. I ran through the asylum and killed the asylum demon pretty easily, though he did hit me a little more than I had anticipated because I wanted to use a lightning bolt on him and I didn't have it properly equipped. Heading into Firelink, I made my typical run down to grab the Firekeeper soul down below, and then headed up top to grab the Firekeeper soul by the Baron Key Knight. I killed the Baron Key Knight before grabbing the Fire Soul, and just running through the map opening it up, I was getting used to the power of this build. My first death was rather silly and in the chapel, but I was figuring out my armor was just a little lacking on this run. But I killed the Piggy, I killed the Black Knight just because, I killed the Titanite Demon just because, I killed Havel just because, I killed the Taurus Demon with no problem at all, and then I laughed with Solaire. Oh, it's so good. The dragon was missing because I didn't go through the Berg. I guess you learn something new every day. Where's the dragon? Hello? Huh, that's weird. Where's the dragon at? Then I rejoined the Sunlight Covenant. I died to cap her because I tried to go left instead of right. But I went back and killed him properly this time. I went down and saved Laurentis. I grabbed the Pine Resin. I killed the Black Knight just because. I saved Griggs just because. Really, on this run, I was just enjoying playing Solaire, so I looked for any excuse just to use him a little bit more. Heading back up to the chapel, I killed the Channeler. I saved Lautrec. I summoned the Sun Team for my first jolly cooperation. Then we killed the Gargoyles rather easily. I rang the first bell, headed down, killed Lautrec, headed down even further. I killed Maneater Mildred, but we buried the hatchet, or I guess cleaver, and we teamed up for our second jolly cooperation against Quelaag. This time, we killed her on the first try with no problem whatsoever, probably because of her weakness to lightning. We made a sexy Solaire cameo run, and we killed Ceaseless. Heading back up top, I almost fall to my death, but was able to save myself and continue on to the Moonlight Butterfly and engage in more jolly cooperation. I headed on over to Sith, and this fight was so easy that honestly I kind of fell asleep and he caught me sleeping, but I killed him in the end. I ran through Sens without a problem, I killed the giant up top, and then we jolly cooperated the golem to death. I killed a gargoyle, and then I did a rafter run. First try, don't want to brag. I killed the last gargoyles, and then I made the archer run on the first try. I headed to Ornstein and Smo. I had to force quit the first time because Solaire needed help, and we had a hard time separating these two, but we were able to kill Ornstein before we both got caught by Smo. Then Solaire died quick as a monkey in the middle, but I was able to beat Smo, and with a little difficulty, I finished off Ornstein. Then I headed down to the Demon Ruins, and I killed a maggot. Looks kind of strange though. I mean, it's so pretty. So brilliantly incandescent. Anyways, I killed the Fire Sage by getting him locked in a butt slam rotation. Then Solaire and I had our second to last jolly cooperation against the Centipede Demon. The Centipede Demon thought it was a ghost for a moment. Where's that hitbox? Where's that hitbox? What is going on? Poor Solaire didn't survive the end of this fight yet again, but I finished off the Centipede Demon on his behalf, and afterwards I had to give him a little pep talk. Then I firebombed the Bed of Chaos. After that I ran through Dukes, died to Sith, and killed Sith with 0 difficulty. But I was so focused on his health that I did die with him. Oops. Then I died running back for those souls. Oops again. Anyways, we headed down to Ghost Town. I got the key, drained the lake, and killed the 4 kings with some fire. Not much to say here. Our damage was much better than Oscar, and we got lucky with the RNG of the bosses. After this, we made a quick drop to the catacombs, killed Pinwheel like brushing off a fly, then headed into the Tomb of Giants. I need something to light up the dark. Now into the darkness, let's see if I have anything that will be useful to me. Oh, what's this? What could this thing do? Let's just sunlight maggot. That might help. Huh? Yes. Yes. I feel it. I feel the sun. I am the sun. Ah! Ha ha! Glorious! Glorious! Yes! Yes! What just happened? Oh well. Anyways, after Nito, we praise the sun one last time. Then we placed the Lord's souls into the vessel, summoned Solaire, watched him die one last time, and killed Gwyn and lit the fire. And finally, I found it. I have my very own sun. I am the sun. I've done it. It's over. My sun. It's dark. So dark. Next run, which is going to be New Game 4 as Sigmeyer of Catarina. For this run, I will be using the Catarina armor. I will be using the Zweihander, which is what Sigmeyer uses. I will have the Pierce shield, which I found out cannot counterattack, so that was going to make things interesting. I will be using the Speckled Ring for most of the run. And as Sigmeyer gives us Emit Force, we will be allowed to use Emit Force, though I didn't end up using it on any bosses. I just kind of played around with it in between. It was never really that useful. You will see at the beginning of the run that I have Sunlight Spear equipped. That was a holdover from my Solaire run, and I did not use it, I promise. I wasn't using any miracles at first, so I forgot to unattune it. On this run, we have a few special rules. One is we have to get all the help we can possibly get and not really help anyone else. I did end up helping Solaire through the game because I needed his help, right? But we were going for a minimum effort run. So that meant summoning every possible NPC and letting them fight the boss as much as possible, though I did step in here and there just to kind of give them a leg up. But for the most part, it was to try and let the summons just kind of fight the bosses and do just minimum effort. That being said, we started our run and we ran in to fight the Asylum Demon. I'm always a little embarrassed at how much damage I take against the Asylum Demon while I kind of figure out the moves and the new weapon and the new armor. But yeah, after that, I made my way to Firelink Shrine, and the first thing I did was I opened up the map a bit and I headed down to Sigmeyer, and I killed my doppelganger. Sad to see Sigmeyer die, but there could only be one, right? After that, I made my way up to save Lautrec, and then I summoned both Lautrec and Solaire, and they finished off those gargoyles pretty easy. I did end up getting one swing in, but I really wish those guys would have let me fight a little bit more. I mean, they're glory hogs, right? After that, I wandered on down and killed Lautrec. He seemed like a villain to me. I went all the way down to Blighttown and was attacked by Mildred and killed Mildred. Then we headed on over to Quelaag and summoned Mildred, and we let her do most of the fighting as per usual. I mean, I can't hog all the glory for myself, but I did have to step in eventually. And after we killed her, I rang the bell. At this point, I did need to find Solaire to unlock his quest a little bit further so he could help me out in the future. So I had to go over and kill the Taurus demon and find Solaire. Strangely enough, though, he did not appear where I expected him, which was kind of sad. But we made our way through Sen's Fortress, and on this run I ended up keeping my armor on 100% of the time, which has not been a rule in the previous runs, but it just seemed like a very Sigmeyer thing to do. We made our way through Sen's Fortress, no problem. Going up top, we killed the giant, and then we summoned Black Iron Tarkus. Again, what is it with these adventurers hogging all the glory to themselves? But after that, a glowing ring popped on the ground. I didn't quite know what it does, but then I was attacked. No! We killed a gargoyle. we made our way through the rafters, we killed another gargoyle, and then we made our way up through the archers, which I gotta admit, I was pretty afraid of this part of the game, but actually we got through on our first try of the rafters and our second try of the archers, so that's not that bad. The armor didn't make me as slow as I had anticipated it would. After that, although we didn't have Solaire previously or at the bonfire in there, we were able to summon him for Ornstein and Smo, so that was a breath of fresh air. Round 1 against Ornstein and Smo, we were doing really well. Our weapons did a lot of damage, and we ended up significantly damaging both health bars unintentionally. Everything was going good, we just had to beat big ol' Smo, but he caught my fat butt running away from him. Round 2, we were able to successfully separate Ornstein and Smo, and drop Ornstein pretty early in the match. I was able to get Smo caught into a butt slam loop, which did a lot of work for me. The Zweihander is able to stagger Smo, which is something that I had forgotten was even possible after my last few runs with much smaller weapons. And ultimately, that's what won me the match. This was honestly the easiest Ornstein and Smo fight on New Game 4. After that, we got the Lord Vessel. We went on down to Ceaseless Discharge, and I expected him to be difficult because I was way too slow as Oscar. But maybe I was so slow that my moves were imperceptible. I had become completely invisible. Because he did not catch me. We went all the way to the end in our fat old armor, and then we were able to easily destroy Ceaseless. After this, I destroyed a weird-looking maggot. I went up to fight the Fire Sage, and again, we got him stuck in a butt slam loop, which is where you want to be on him. That did most of the work for us. And after that, I went down to fight the Centipede Demon, and I saw that we did not have Solaire, which I guess made sense to me. So this is the one part in the run where I broke a very important rule, and I took my armor off. Because, you see, with Sigmeyer, the armor isn't to protect him. It's to restrain his power. I went Ultra Instinct mode, and I went running all over the map, meeting Solaire in every place that I'm supposed to meet him, and then met him back at the Centipede Demon and was ready to rock on with my buddy Solaire. The Centipede Demon wasn't hard, the typical jank you expect of him jumping all around and being difficult to hit. After that, it was important to go fulfill part of Sigmeyer's story quest. We headed over to the Chaos Eaters. I wanted a nice cinematic battle of jumping down and fighting these things, so I used black fire bombs to weaken them to just almost having no health whatsoever, so that I could jump down and be a hero and fight them. But in typical Sigmeyer fashion, I jumped right into the mouth of one as I was trying to do a plunging attack, and I died. So we ran back, and instead of pretending to be a hero, we just jumped down, no black fire bombs, and we fought them all pretty easily, actually. The Zweihander cuts through them like butter. But I found a better use for my fire bombs as we cheesed the bed of chaos with some fire bombs. We then headed down to fight Pinwheel in the catacombs, and he was a pretty easy fight when I could catch him. He was jumping all over the map, and I was swinging my sword all over the place, and I just could not hit the little bugger. But eventually I caught up with him and dropped him pretty easily. I made my way through the Tomb of Giants, and then we fought Nito, and once again, Nito got stuck in a loop. All the bosses got stuck in loops on this run, but he got stuck in this loop of spamming his energy attack, so I would just run up and hit him, run away from the energy attack, run up and hit him, run away from the energy attack, rinse, repeat, pretty much until he died. So he was that was the easiest fight I've ever had. I marched on over to Duke's Archives, had my typical death to Sith, made my way down through the Crystal Golems, and same thing, I nuzzled up into Sith, and was able to find a sweet spot right in the crick between his bulge and his tentacle. That sounded weird. And I was able to just smack him. I was so easy that actually I didn't realize that I had gotten cursed and I died. So I ran back. I died running back for my souls, and that's a total Sigmeyer thing to do. But then I made my way back and nuzzled on in. This time I paid attention to my curse buildup, and I used some humanity to heal instead of my Estus flasks, which was giving me some extra curse resistance. And that was Sith. Yeah, he died. After this, I thought there was only one thing to do, which was head down to the Four Kings and kill them. So I went down and got the key, I drained the lake, and then I was heading down to fight the Four Kings, and I realized that I did not have the Crest of Victorious. I have not killed Sith. So I cried a little bit, I teleported on over to Sith, we attacked the puppy, and you know what? He was being quite difficult to us. He kept jumping high up in the air where I couldn't hit him, but eventually we cornered him, we killed him, we got the crest, we headed back down, we fought the Four Kings. I had plenty of armor and poise to tank the kings, so we just kind of hacked our way through them, and that was the Four Kings. After this, we headed down to the Kiln of the First Flame. We summoned Solaire. We headed in and we let Solaire do all the heavy lifting against Gwyn, but he did need some help from us, and I didn't have the heart to just watch him die like he died so many times on the Solaire run. So we walked up and we popped Gwyn a few times, but ultimately Solaire did get the killing blow, and that was the Sigmeyer run. This was the fastest, quickest, easiest run of all the runs. The Zweihander just does so much damage. The armor of Catarina has plenty of armor and poise for you. And the added rule of having to have other people fight for you as much as possible was a sweet spot in the run. And we are now heading into our Black Iron Tarkus run. Welcome to our Iron Tarkus run. I'm limited to the Black Iron set, the Tower Shield, and the Greatsword. Tarkus isn't known for using any miracles or spells, so I don't have access to any of those. And because Iron Tarkus is known for having armor that was specifically crafted for him, I will be leaving the armor on for the entire run. The lore also states that Tarkus is the leader of the Baronike Knights, and 3 of them have been left on the maps gone hollow. So Tarkus is going to kill all 3 of them and lay his former brothers to rest. Also, I'll describe a little bit more later that after the first boss, I decided I didn't want any help on any other boss fights. However, we did end up breaking that one other place, and I'll explain why that happened later on in the run. That being said, let's get on into this. Starting off, I used the Asylum Demon to get used to the moveset. I thought Solaire felt powerful, but this guy was like operating heavy machinery. Heading through the Burg, I continued to get used to this monster. I deliberately chose to face the Tauros Demon man to man. And this really gets into the theme of the run. With Iron Tarkus, I felt like I was just stomping across the map and handling any problems that got in my way. I made my way to the Undead Chapel, and I handled the first Baronike Knight, and we laid our former brother to rest. After this, I headed up to the Gargoyles, and funny enough, this was the section of the run that I struggled with the most. I was still trying to get the hang of this big, slow, powerful build surrounded by fast, buffed, new game 5 enemies, and the Gargoyles were honestly just too much for me. I feel ashamed to say that I ended up summoning Solaire after multiple deaths, and the help he gave me in the fight was just too easy. So I determined right here, right then, that I would not summon any more help for any other bosses for the rest of the run. We were going to man up and be Iron Tarkus. This was only broken for one other boss, and again, I'll explain that later in the run. Heading down to Blighttown, there was no big deal, and I killed Mildred, no problem. I headed over to Quelaag with determination to handle her solo, and we did. I learned that this was all about patience. The Tower Shield let me tank almost anything. I just had to shield up and then punish the right moves. After Quelaag, I rang the bell, and I ran over to Ceaseless, and I was prepared to tank a big explosion, but it never came. I was able to mosey on back and just punch him off the ledge. Simple enough. The true boss of this area, though, was not Quailag. It was not Ceaseless. It was the elevator. I had some serious elevator trouble, and I had to keep quickly quitting out to save myself. I finally made it over to Sen's Fortress when I suddenly remembered that on this run I need the peculiar doll for the third Baronike Knight, so I headed back to the Undead Asylum to grab the doll. After grabbing the doll, Oscar wanted a piece of me, and I tell you what, he bit off more than he could chew. And finally I headed back to Sen's Fortress once again. I made my way slowly but surely through Sen's and got through on the first try, easy enough. At the top of Sen's, my first goal was to lay yet another fallen Baronike brother to rest. Heading up to the giant, we fought him on even ground. No hiding in the hall this time. We paid him the respect he deserved and dropped him quick. Then I summoned Tarkus. I had Googled if it was possible to kill a summon, but I wasn't getting good results, so I decided just to try it myself, and you know what? No, you can't fight summons. I couldn't fight Tarkus. And then we come to what was my biggest regret of the run. My goal was to kill the golem with Tarkus, since I had summoned him, and I thought it'd be fun to kind of tag team him, but then I was going to force quit out before the victory sign, and I was going to solo the golem as Tarkus, and I was really looking forward to that, and I was going to essentially kill him twice on one run. But I flubbed the force quit, and I lost the opportunity to 1v1 the new Game 5 Golem as Tarkus. This makes me so sad. So on New Game 7 as Havel, I plan to kill the Golem as Havel, and then force quit and kill him again as Tarkus 1v1 in New Game 7, so make sure you tune in for that. Then we killed a gargoyle, and we headed to the rafters. This is apparently where many people think Tarkus fell to his death, and I disagree since he made it through Sen's Fortress, so I was determined to prove them wrong. I had one moment where my momentum carried me off the edge, but we force quit in time and made it through the rafters on our first try. Honestly, the Greatsword actually has a perfect moveset for these rafters because the thrust is a straight line forward and doesn't throw you off the edge like the Zweihander or other weapons. Afterwards, we killed Gargoyle 4, and then it was time for the archers. One force quit did the trick, and we made the archers on our first try as well. Then we headed over to Ornstein and Smo. I made the brave choice not to bring Solaire. We manned up in 1 versus 2 the dastardly duo. Again, the recipe was patience and punishment. We took our sweet time. I waited and baited Ornstein to death. Then it was just a matter of killing Smo. 2 titans faced off, and 1 man was left standing. First try, no deaths. We received the Lord Vessel, and we dismissed the illusion. Tarkus ain't no simp, and he got no time for fairy tales. Then we headed over to the Painted Guardians. Another lore idea is that Tarkus died to these guys because his armor set is found in the corner. So I wanted to adamantly refute that idea. I made sure they got the message. And then I entered the painting. We opened the gates after dealing with 1,000,000 bone wheels. Then we just went through the gates and dealt with our last fallen brother and laid him to rest. After that, we coldly walked past Priscilla and left the painting. Then we headed over to Sith. Killing Sith was pretty easy. Our poise was way too high for the puppy to hurt us. And then we headed over to New Londo to grab a key, drain a lake. Then we fought the 4 kings. This was a DPS check for sure, but we had the gear, and it made for a pretty easy fight, all things considered. Heading down to the Bed of Chaos, we weed-whacked our way through 2 Kirks and a witch. Then we began the Bed of Chaos. I've been watching a speedrunner called Jakers who taught me to run at the right hand to bait out a slam, but I didn't have the pacing right for the jump afterwards, and I started going insane on this boss. But we finally got our aim correct and stomped on the bug. After that, I headed on over to Duke's Archives, and every run I've been able to make my way through there no problem. When I got to the top of the first elevator, though, my son wanted to show me something, so I quit out of the game to go look at what he had to show me, and when I got back, the elevator was gone, and I died running back to it. But we got back on track, we died to Sith, we ran through Dukes, and then we fought Sith. Not much to say here. We've learned a lot of lessons on the previous runs, like using humanity to heal and buff our curse resist. After this, I'm not sure I'll ever struggle with Sith ever again. Down to the catacombs, we killed Pinwheel. I ran all the way to Nito, killed the skeletons with the Divine Greatsword, then switched to a Fire Greatsword, nuzzled into Nito's groin and just smacked him to death. It's sad how his attacks just don't land when you get in his face. It makes him pretty much an easy fight. I placed the Lord Vessel, I made my way down to Gwyn, and on this fight, there was no Solaire. The tower shield does not allow you to parry, so we couldn't parry him. It was just me and Gwyn, mano-y-mano. This was a great fight. Gwyn is faster, tankier, and hits harder. I had to learn which moves we could punish, and honestly, it wasn't very many moves. There was one stab and his grab attack, and I didn't quite know how to bait them, so this was a long fight, but patience won out. He caught me off guard once when I was trying to heal, but beyond that, my tower shield could tank most of his attacks, and we ended up getting him in the end. And yeah, that's the run. Paladin Leroy, the Way of White. Let's get into the rules of this run. There's a few special rules. We have access to the Paladin set, the Shield Sanctus, the Thorlin Talisman, Heals, Wrath of the Gods, and Grant. I will also have to complete special story objectives. I need to join the Way of White right off the bat, and then I need to head down into the catacombs first. There, I will join Gravelord Nito, retrieve Nito, the Rite of Kindling, and then murder all of the Way of White members, including Anastasia, which means I will not have access to Firelink Shrine for a good majority of this run. That being said, let's head into the run. Starting with the Asylum Demon, I used this fight to test damage and get used to the moveset. I found out two immediate problems. I don't have a Thorlin Talisman, and Grant's two-handed heavy attack is a weapon art that quickly breaks the weapon. So, we kill the Asylum Demon quick and head to Firelink. First thing I do here is join the Way of White, and I purchased a Thorlin Talisman, and then head straight to Andre to buy a repair box. I'm gonna need this on the run over and over. After this, I do some weapons testing on the Hollows, and I see how expensive it is to repair my weapons. That out of the way, we head to the catacombs. I take my time, going slow, using my heals, and go the proper way through the catacombs because I don't want to get soft locked down there. We tell Patches we're a cleric on a mission and he tries to murder us. We let him live because I can't risk messing up Rhea's quest. All in due time. I make my way to Gravelord Nito, and we have a heart-to-heart conversation. What things did he whisper to Leroy in the dark? I like to think of Dagath from Morrowind, a misunderstood villain that I always wished I could join. Leroy is convinced, and he becomes a Gravelord. I head out with a new purpose, and I find Vamos. We use his bonfire, but his services are no longer useful to us. I make my way to Pinwheel, and I deal massive damage to him with Grant. I retrieve the Rite of Kindling with no effort at all. I make my way back up out of Pinwheel's area and find my way back to Nito and give him the Rite of Kindling. I finally head back up to Firelink. And now I need to trigger Rhea to show up and head down to the catacombs. So to make that happen, I need to go kill Capra. I head through the Burg, I kill the Tauros demon, I return to the Undead Parish, grabbing the basement key along the way. I kill the Baronite Knight for getting in my way. And I save my secret assassin Lautrec. He'll murder Anastasia for me. I drop the Gargoyles, then head down to the lower Undead Burg. I drop Capra easy and make my way back to the Firelink Shrine. Now it's time to head down to the catacombs. I let Patches kick me on down into the dark, and there, in the dark, I find Rhea. She's surrounded by danger. She says, "Oh, Master Leroy, there's too many of them. What do we do?"
The only one of the gods. No. This can't be.
Still feeling murderous, I choose to murder a puppy. Then I head down to Quelaag. Still testing things out, I find her explosion one-shots me. But with that knowledge, I know what I need to finish her off, no problem. Ingi then gets in my way and regrets it, but we let the fair lady live because she's useful to me. Heading back to Firelink, I check on Anastasia. Well done, Lautrec. Then we run through Sen's Fortress. I've seemingly mastered this place, but I'll probably eat those words on the Havel run. But for now, we make it up no problem. This time, I let the giant live and head over to the golem. He refuses to be staggered by Grant, which is surprising to me. I thought we'd send him tumbling no problem, but it's not until he's almost dead that he falls down. I guess welcome to New Game 6, ladies and gentlemen. After this, I eat many games worth of boss souls that I've just been sitting on, and we kill a gargoyle, we watch our footing on the rafters, and we dance past the archers. We head to Ornstein and Smo, and we need to get used to moving around these guys, and I die a few times trying to figure out some strategies. Eventually, I discover the safest way to deal with them is in the eye of the storm. Running at Smo causes him to miss and get in the way of Ornstein. With this strategy, we're able to kill Ornstein as he backs away and tries to get away from Smo, who just keeps getting in his way. Then, it's just a matter of patience and getting Smo caught in a butt slam rotation to finish him off. After this, we kill Guinevere, as all gods must die, and then we wrap this up by heading down to the Dark Moon Tomb and killing Gwendolyn. It's an arduous run to catch him, but we learn the patterns and smack him down. Killing these two weren't really part of the rules, but it just felt right. It felt like it should be part of the run, so I added it in last minute. We return to remember that the Fire Link is off limits for the rest of the run, but no problem. We drop the Lord Vessel, and this becomes the new Fire Link Shrine for us. The most annoying part about this is going to be the Four Kings. So, to get this out of the way, I grab the key, I drain the lake, and I head down to the Four Kings. This time around, I definitely passed the DPS check. I'm able to kill each king right as the next one pops up, and we win the fight with only one annoying runback. After this, we kill Ceaseless and head to the Bed of Chaos. I skipped the Fire Sage and Centipede because they weren't part of the run, and I'm going to do an all-boss run as Havel, so I'm conserving my energy. We firebombed the Bed of Chaos, and I did master baiting out that slam as Tarkus, so this was no problem at all. Then we head to Duke's, and we die to Sith, we make our way to the Crystal, and again, we've learned some great skills on all these runs, so we know to heal with humanity, to wear the Curse Bite ring, we do amazing damage, and we put Sith down no problem. Now, we go back to where it all started. Nito. I had imagined at this point Leroy was disillusioned with all religions and wanted to cast the world into darkness. The Way of White would finally lose their precious light. Fighting Nito is easy. His attacks never land, and Grant is divine, so the skeletons stay dead. Honestly, this fight is probably one of the easiest fights of the run. Then, it's time for Gwyn. On the last two runs of Sigmeyer and Tarkus, we couldn't parry Gwyn, so we make up for lost time with the Hornet Ring, and Gwyn dies. This will be the last time I can do this to Gwyn, so we take advantage of it. After that, we cast the world in darkness, and, well, that's the run. Havel the Rock. I will be stuck as Havel the Rock, which means I'm going to be wearing the Havel gear. I'm going to be using Havel's shield. I have to leave Havel's ring on the entire time, and I'm going to be using the Dragon Tooth. There are also an added complexity to this run because I'm going to kill everything that is killable and unique. So as an added little challenge for this run, we're going to be doing an all-boss run. We're going to kill all the bosses. I'm going to kill all of the NPCs, and I'm going to kill every unique enemy, all the knights, the mini-bosses that when you kill them once, they don't respawn, like the Titanite Demon in the basement. So right off the bat, I headed on into the Asylum Demon, and I am ashamed to say that on New Game 7, he actually one-shot me. I was trying to roll back as this big old beefy boy, and he just happened to catch me the wrong way. But I wiped the egg off my face and went back in and destroyed him pretty easily once I took him a little bit more serious. After that, I headed on over to the Undead Asylum, and I just began murdering my way through everything. So we started with murdering the Crestfallen Warrior, and then we made our way through the Undead Burg and murdered the Undead Merchant. We then handled the Black Knight that is down in the Burg. I used the Master Key to shortcut down to Havel, where I killed Havel. Went back up and handled the Taurus Demon, no problem at all. And then made my way across the bridge and killed Solaire, which I have to admit did not feel good. Did not feel good at all. I know. I know. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, man. Oh, that does not feel good. That does not feel good. Oh, man. Havel, you're a jerk. Oh, man. All right. After that, I felt like I needed a shower, but we did die to the Hellkite, and I couldn't help but feel like I just deserved that death. It felt like karma. We then died again to the piggy right after the Hellkite, but we were able to kill the piggy, deal with the Black Knight in the tower, and then I made my way through the Undead Parish. Once there, it was time to kill Sigmeyer, which this was actually a mistake, and I'll explain why that was such a bad idea later in the video. And then it was time to kill Andre and roast his body on the bonfire. After that, I went down to the basement and handled the Titanite demon, made our way back through the chapel where I killed the Baronite Knight. I then dealt with the Channeler, we murdered Lautrec, and then we went up to deal with the Gargoyles, which was, again, not really a problem. I rang the bell, and the hardest boss of this entire run was Oswald. This man was fast, and he could heal, and he was tucking away in a spot where my Dragon Tooth couldn't reach him while he healed for full health. It was just so frustrating, but again, it felt like karma. It felt like I was paying my due, and I did deserve every death I got from Oswald. But eventually we caught him, we killed him, and then I made my way over to deal with the Moonlight Butterfly, and just a little bit of patience and a few bonks, and the butterfly went down. Using the crest from Andre, I went over to Sith, and we dealt with the puppy. Just as runs before, we had way too much poise for the dog to do anything to us, so he was pretty easy. Then I went over to Darkroot Basin. I killed the knight over there. And then we made our way over to the Hydra, and I bonked off all the heads of the Hydra. I made my way over to the Golden Golem and saved Dusk, though I would deal with her later. And at this point, we made our way back to the Undead Asylum. Once there, I killed Oscar. I dealt with both Black Knights in the asylum, and then crumbled on through the floor and dealt with the stray demon. On this run, everything kind of felt simple and easy, even though it's New Game 7 and things did hit like a truck. My shield could pretty much mitigate all the damage I had to worry about. And so Stray Demon was just a matter of, patience, shielding up, learning his moves, and taking him out. After that, it was time to kill the Hellkite. So I made my way back over to Hellkite, and his fire could pretty much one-shot me, but I used the reach of the tooth to go around back and actually bonk the Hellkite from behind the wall, and you hit him, he hits the bridge for a second, comes back up to his perch, and you just rinse repeat until he dies. I made my way down to the lower Undead Burg. I saved Griggs, only to kill him. I tried to kill the sewer merchant, but after one failed attempt of a hit, she just made her way all the way back and began to just mock me for an eternity. Okay. She's just gonna yell at me every time I go by. Once I was done listening to the roast of Havel, I made my way down to Capra Demon, and the hardest part of this fight was actually the dogs. I had a weird death to just a massive bleed buildup out of nowhere, and just kind of died without even realizing I had died so quick. But I made my way back, and we killed the puppies, and then we bonked Capra to death, and that was that. Made my way down with the key to save Laurentis, to kill Laurentis, and then we killed both of the butchers. And then went a little deeper down. We murdered a giant rat. We murdered Domhall of Xena. And then I dealt with the Channeler in the sewers, and then popped on down and dealt with the Undead Dragon. His hitbox was frustrating as usual, but this weapon just does so much damage. We were able to take him out, no problem. I made my way back up and then back down to kill Maneater Mildred. Headed on over to Quelaag. Dealt with Quelaag, though I did die to her once from her massive fire damage. I equipped the flame plate ring with Havel's ring, and we were able to handle Quelaag with just a little bit more patience and punishing the right moves. We rang the bell. We played This Little Piggy with Ceaseless till he fell to his death. And heading back up to Firelink, we then destroyed the entire way of white. At this point, I realized I had forgotten the doll, so I made my way back over to the Undead Asylum, and I grabbed the doll. Then it was time to run through Sen's Fortress. I died once, but I was able to save Logan, and then I was able to finish Sen's Fortress. Up at the top, I killed the Giant. I killed the Crestfallen Merchant. I made my way over to Ricard, and we killed Ricard. I was a little bit worried that he would be too fast for me, but actually, once we caught him, he died pretty easily. And then I filmed my rematch against the Golem as Tarkus, and I messed up. I had messed up the force quit. Once again, I didn't quit fast enough. So I would have to go back on New Game 8 and kill the Golem all over again. I'll cover that in a moment. But up at Anor Londo, we killed the first gargoyle. We made our way through the rafters. We killed the second gargoyle. We made our way past the archers, actually quite easy this time, which was surprising. And then I grabbed a second dragon's tooth, and I decided to kill the mimic that holds the occult club in the most creative way. I have a really dumb idea. Not you. There it is. Oh, come on. I got it. I have to. Oh, that was dumb. That was so dumb. I love it. Now we get to the real challenge of the run. Everything at this point has been kind of homework. It's just been bonking some NPCs and dealing with some bosses who were minor little speed bumps in our path to the end of the game. However, now we got to deal with Ornstein and Smo. And so heading into this, I used some charcoal pine resin just to add some fire damage to my weapon. And I treated the first fight as a test. I knew I was settling in for the long haul. And, you know, on the first just test run, not even expecting to win, we did really well against these guys. The shield can block all the damage as long as your stamina bar doesn't wear off. So it was a matter of just trying to watch my back and make sure they didn't hit me from behind, and to watch my endurance bar and make sure that my stamina did not wear off. They did catch me on a little 1-2. The second time through, I got a little greedy with the retrieval. I died on a few of the runbacks. And yeah, you know, it was a pretty challenging fight. One annoying thing was just these random crits would just kind of catch me off to the side and instant kill me, which was a weird kind of phenomenon that happened. There were quite a few annoying deaths, and I ended up taking a break at one day and coming back the next day with some fresh hands, fresh eyes, fresh endurance of my own personal sheer will. And yeah, the goal was to bully them because I couldn't really separate them very easy like I could on other runs. I was just too slow. So we had to kind of stay in the eye of the storm, and that just took some work knowing how to dance in between these two. But eventually we caught Ornstein, and then when it was just mano-y-mano, it was much easier to deal with Smo. And with being able to stagger him, we put him down. After this, I accidentally missed the part where I recorded killing Guinevere with a firebomb. That sucked. But went down to Firelink and I finished off Logan. Then I made my way back to the Dark Moon Tomb and we killed Gwendolyn. To kill Gwendolyn, it was just a matter of, you know, strafing left, strafing right, and bonking him when the time came. It was long, it was tedious, but it was easy. Headed on over to the blacksmith and murdered him, nighty-night. And then we killed Ingward, we drained the lake. We placed the Lord Vessel, and we went down to the Four Kings. Oh, what can I say about these guys? You know, we did plenty of damage, we had plenty of poise, and so all in all, we were able to kill each king pretty much before the next king popped up, and we put them down, no problem. Headed on over to Izalith, and we killed Kirk for the first time. We dealt with the Fire Sage, we dealt with the Centipede Demon, and then we headed on over to the Bed of Chaos, but first we had to kill Kirk a second time, and one of the Daughters of Chaos. And then we dealt with the Bed of Chaos. I found by unequipping my shield and Dragon Tooth that I could medium roll And so, knowing that, and with all my practice from the previous 6 runs, we were able to make that jump on our first try, and then we just bludgeoned the the Bed of Chaos to death. After this, we headed on over to Duke's Archives. We killed Piggy 1, Piggy 2, murdered the Crystal Smith, died to Seath, and then made our way over to Seath. This was a little bit of a more interesting fight with Seath. I couldn't just nuzzle in and take him out like I could on previous runs. I found that I had to be a little bit more creative with my footwork, but eventually we did find our way in, and after 2 deaths, we were able to kill Seath the Scaleless. Heading on down to the catacombs, we killed the first necromancer, we killed the second necromancer, we killed Pinwheel, skipping all the other necromancers, though I would get one later. I then murdered Patches in the dark, and I killed the Black Knight that hides out in the Tomb of Giants. I died to Paladin Leroy the first time, but I killed him on the second try. I went down to Nito, and again, this fight was a lot more interesting on New Game 7. I didn't have a divine weapon to deal with the skeletons, so they were a constant problem, and I wasn't as fortunate with the AI of Nito this time around, so I had to work a little harder for this fight, but we were able to dance around the slow Skelly Boy and kill him. I then headed back over to the Valley of Drakes and killed the Undead Dragon. And then it was time to handle some DLC content. So I headed over to the painting. I lowered the gate, dealing with all the bone wheels. We killed King Jeremiah. I killed the Undead Dragon on the bridge. I killed the Baronike Knight there and then headed into Priscilla, and she was hard to spot. But I was able to locate her, get her out of her invisible mode, and drop her no problem. I forgot about the Mimic in Anor Londo. I did not end up killing all the Mimics on this run, but I did give it a fair shot. I can't quite remember where they all are. And then I went into Ulasil. I handled the Guardian the same way that I handled Ornstein and Smo, which was I treated the first few fights as just a way to kind of learn the boss. He's not one I'm used to. He's very fast. He's very aggressive. But we learned what moves we could punish, and then put him down. I then murdered this mushroom lady, I don't remember her name, and then we died once to Chester, but came back and caught him in between reloading his crossbow and was able to get him put down for good. Heading into Artorias, I was super worried about this fight. But dealing with Artorias, I found once again the shield could block all the damage pretty much. It was just a matter of learning which moves we could punish, which was only about 2 moves. I had to catch him on his 3rd sword swing. Some of the moves you'd think you'd be able to punish with his jump, spin, and slam. You'd think you could catch him after that, but you cannot. He's just too fast. I was not able to damage him quick enough to stop him from buffing up, so I found out it was better just to let him buff up because I could still block all of his damage. And so we were patient, we waited, it took a while, but we put Artorias down. And then I went back over and murdered his girlfriend, Syrian. I grabbed the pendant in the middle of Ulasil. I killed a Mimic for a gate to get over to Go, though I do believe I missed a Mimic somewhere in the middle there. I killed whatever this abomination is. I have no idea what this guy is, but I believe he's a unique enemy. And then it was time to go in and fight Manus. Another fight that worried me. All of these DLC bosses are fast, they're aggressive, they're mean, they hit hard. But with Havel, as usual, the strategy was always the same. It was shield up, kind of learn the movesets. Using the pendant, I was able to mitigate the big magic, like a dark damage that he does. And we learned how to catch Manus. I think with him, I learned that going over to the side of his claw was actually his weak point. His hitboxes don't smack as much on his left side. And we got around back and we killed him eventually. I then went and talked to Go, said hi to Calamite, went back and had Go shoot Calamite, and then like a monster that I am, I murdered Go for his help. He was actually the hardest giant of the run to fight. And then we went down to deal with Calamite. This is a boss that I've never actually beaten, not even on New Game 1, but I've learned a lot. I've grown a lot through all of these new game 1 through 7, and we've just really learned to become a better player. I've really gotten good through all of these. And the Havel set really comes with a lot of advantages. Calamit's Cataclysmic Curse really didn't do that much damage and didn't seem to affect us too much. So again, with this boss, we were patient. We found the right places to hit. We needed to get a little bit mobile to watch out for his fire breath, but in the end, yeah, he actually wasn't that difficult. After this, I realized I forgot a mimic at the bottom of Sen's fortress, so I made my way back there and killed him. And then I was planning on not killing Vamos, because I really hate making my way down there, but I bit the bullet and did my homework. We killed a third necromancer, we made our way down to Vamos, and we put him out of his misery. After this, I joined the forest hunters, I killed Shiva, all of the hunters, and then made Alvira angry. With all of my homework done, or so I thought, I offered the souls to the Lord Vessel and went down to murder Gwyn. Dealing with Gwyn was tough. We could not parry him, so he was going to be a little bit more of a difficult fight. However, I finally, at the end of the game, utilized my stone skin ability from my shield. I actually equipped 2 shields, and my extra Havel shield, I broke it using that buff. Well, then I switched to my other +5 shield, which remained intact and ready for the fight. And yeah, Gwyn was a tough guy, but there was no cheese strategy to him. We just had to deal with him. And just with Calamite, with Manus, with Artorias, we learned his patterns, we shielded up, and then we put him down finally. It was a little bit hard because his fire damage did actually go through our shield. He was the only boss who could get a little bit of damage through our shield. And then I cast the world in darkness, feeling satisfied when my gut sank and I realized that there was quite a little bit more homework I had to do. So I booted into New Game 8, and first thing I did was I used the Master Key and headed on down to Blighttown. I had to kill Quelaag one more time, but after that I dealt with Iggy, the Grubs, and the Fair Lady. I then went all the way down to the Hydra at the bottom of the map, and we killed him. I had to save Laurentis and then plus my Pyromancy Glove up to +15. I was drowning in souls, so it was very easy. And then we killed Quailana. I worked my way all the way back up through Sens and recorded Havel versus the Golem. And so we had a fair fight this time. It was actually much easier as Havel than it was as Tarkus. This weapon just did plenty of damage. I then, because I killed Guinevere, I missed out on killing the Anor Londo Firekeeper. So this time I was able to kill the Anor Londo Firekeeper. And then I had to deal with Ornstein and Smo all over again. I had to place the Lord Vessel, and then I dealt with the Duke's Archive mimics. I realized I couldn't kill Rickert, and the final boss of the run was I had to do all the homework to make my way all the way back through Duke's Archives and kill the Golden Golem and finally kill Sieglund. And that was finally the run of New Game 7, which is technically New Game 1 through New Game 8 of our NPC challenge. This was quite the run, and it was a lot of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching it, playing through all of these characters. It's been a joy making these videos for you guys, and I will catch you on our next series, though I'm going to take a little bit of a break from a 1 to 7 run. So we're going to do something a little easy for our next video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.